stated that he doesn't want the relationship. That's not what I'm seeing here. He has an issue. He wants to be realistic about the fact they're going to have a long distance relationship, not just the idea of not wanting the relationship. He did not mention he did not want the relationship.
Yeah, not wanting the long distance relationship.
Even before I make the point, from what Jonathan said, women think more from an emotional perspective and men think more logical. So we can evidently see that Jerry's logical reasoning is being realistic. Jana, emotionally, she just randomly made that decision. Women, we do things based on our emotion, and men act logical reasoning, logical thinking. Like, how is that going to affect our relationship? How often we'll communicate? How much money that's going to cost? What's going to happen? Vacation time? Like all those factors that needs to be taken into consideration. So it's giving Jana, I keep saying the wrong name, sorry. It's giving Jana, that would give Jana an opportunity to think logically or on the same page with Jerry, and then vice versa, Jerry understanding that this is Jana's dream. So it's an interchange of understanding. Right now, there's no understanding.
How do they get the understanding? Sorry, we're looking at solutions now. How do they get the understanding? How should they?
So that's the point I'm bringing forward. Again, bringing someone to have that conversation because of the lack of understanding. Mm-hmm. Right? They, for example, they may not agree on. For example, Jerry stated that I don't think this long distance relationship is going to work. He right out said that I don't think it's going to work. But Jerry, why do you think it's not going to work? Mm-hmm. So this is where the conflicts will arise, and they will need someone to guide them on that. Excellent. Or need some sort of guidance on that. So they can come to be on the same page and say, okay, because just Jana, she's enthusiastic about it. She sees the bigger picture. She's excited about it, and she wants Jerry to have that same feeling. And she's just not understanding why he's not having that same feeling, understanding that men think more logically than emotionally.
Okay, thank you for that. Panelists, I don't want to rush you, but we did agree that everybody's expecting us to end at 9. So we want to go briefly through your solution and compromise so that we give the audience a time to interact with you panelists as our experts this evening.
Okay, so I think that I think he does. I believe he does want her to succeed. Yes, he's being realistic that he doesn't think the long distance would work for him. I think I would suggest as a parent, because yes, I would want my daughter to further her education. I would tell them, maybe, you know what, guys, you don't have to be extreme to break up, but you can come to maybe take a break, but not break up. Just take a break. Take a little break, encourage Jerry to do some other stuff that he wants to. Let's sit down with him and give him some direction as a parent, and give him some short-term goals. Let him see what it is that he wants to do in the meantime while Jana pursues her doctorate, and keep him busy and that kind of thing, and see, then they can probably take it from there,
Okay, so take a break. That's not a breakup.
No,
I
think at 21, they are very young. She's going to school. Doesn't say how long she's going for. I think that if it's meant to be, it will be.
Okay.
From experience, just leave it as that. They could be friends, and if when she comes back, it's supposed to be, I think it will be. But for her to be focusing on somebody who doesn't really want a long-term relationship, which he stated, and he doesn't seem like he will be given. I don't know, the fact that he doesn't want it, just leave it at that. That's what I think. Just break up. Yeah, just break up. Just break up now. And if God wants it to happen, if it's supposed to happen when she comes back, then they will rekindle that fire that was once there. That's what I think.
Okay. We're hearing from the women. Men, what do you think?
How about finding out Jerry's ambition, whether he would like to go to school together with her? That's
together.
I like that.
Do it together.
To break up. They do not need to break up. Everybody's talking about break up.
Jerry might have.
We're not thinking about the solution. I love it.
1 minute, Rena. That's the perception of the solution.
Jerry might want to be a lawyer. Who knows? So they could decide, well, let's go to school together. And then afterwards, because they are young, 21, you know? They can
the scholarship opportunity passed already. It was a scholarship. He didn't apply.
We can do it together.
So
we can do it together as an option.
They should get married and then move on.
Another option is let's get married. Jonathan, what you have to say, Leonard and Angelique, and then we will open our audience. Hands are itching.
You know, for me, listen, they started at 16. That's pretty young. They have not met other
people,
males and females and that kind of thing. I have some concerns about that. It's pretty young. So my thing is, listen, they could collaborate and say, listen, Jana, you go ahead and pursue your studies. We're gonna pray about it, be real about it, be mature about it. Let's see how things develop. We continue to communicate with each other. If the distance creates some separation between us, so be it. But I think they should put a pause and see how things develop. Whatever is to be, will be.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with that. Yeah, in terms of the fact that, I mean, she has her goals and she knows where it is that she wants to be. And I've seen so many scenarios where persons have been put in similar situations.
Yeah.
You break up and you need to go to school, but it's almost as if I've seen persons, I love that person so much. And I understand Jerry's perspective where he's afraid that maybe, okay, we met young and we're still, who am I? Who is she? You know, she's still developing. I'm still developing who my personality is. And she's probably going to change a lot while she's over there in school. So but you do find situations where persons, I love this person so much. And it doesn't matter where I go, where I am. I'm going to go get my degree. But when I come back, we've made this connection so strong that no matter what it is, when I come back, I'm coming back to you. You know, you do find these situations.
Yeah.
So I have to agree with both Jonathan and Romelia. If it's meant to be, it is meant to be. But you never just give up on your goals just to be with someone and set yourself back.
Okay, thanks for that. Any other panelists who have not gone in for a solution?
Okay, my perception to the solution is, one, I know men don't handle these situations too kindly. So under all circumstances, Jana will go to study. So what they can decide is, Jana go to study, let's give it a try, see how it can work. You will go, I will try to build on mine. And it is true, I don't feel too comfortable with the long distance, but let us see how it can work. And for all you know, it may work. If it does not work, by that time they will be older. And maybe by that time he will handle it differently. So go to study and let's see how things work out. Okay. We will keep in touch and we will monitor and see how far it can go.
Excellent. Excellent. Different perspectives. Everybody went already?
Can I just say one thing?
Okay, and then we will open for the audience. Go ahead, Romania.
Okay, I also just wanted to mention the fact, I think they're the same age. They're the same age, they're both 21.
Yeah.
Not well. I just need to mention that, don't forget, women mature a little faster than men. Just so what I just putting that in there would, I am very much for the fact that they're both, I keep saying that they're very young, they're 21. I know we might say yes, 21, but at that age, I don't think marriage should be something that they should be not considering, but school. Think about school right now. And yes, you dated for 5 years, but as I said, they are fairly young at 21. Marriage, think about the school, think about if God, okay, go ahead. If God, pray about it.
Olympia, one last thing. I'm going to suggest, Olympia, that other than accepting Christ as your personal savior, the next most life-changing decision you're going to make is about marriage and who you're going to spend the rest of your life with.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're ready for that right now. So let her go on to school and let's see how things evolve.
Okay. So that's the general consensus that has come through with our panelists. Audience, I want to thank you for being so patient. There's a lot of interaction happening among you. And I'm going to ask Travon to assist us in facilitating the chat and calling upon persons to give their contributions with our discussion this evening. I'm hoping everybody is aware of the scenario. Do we need to put it up again or just a summary? So you have Jerry and Jana. They've been going out for a while as friends. They decided to take their relationship to another level. After 5 years, they are now dating. Jana wanted to be a doctor, so she applied for a scholarship. And she got through, to her surprise. She presented it to her partner, Jerry. There's a young couple, and he was not as excited for the fear that he does not think their long-distance relationship would last, and she's going off into Taiwan. So we're trying to look at the different perceptions of that situation from males and from females. So Trevon, over to you to manage the chat and the questioning.
All right, good night, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Okay, lovely. So I'm going to make it as quick and concise as possible. Initially, I think Mr. Jonathan said that apart from your relationship with Christ, the next most important thing you should focus on is your relationship and whom you may marry. I would like to disagree there because initially, in the Garden of Eden, before it was Adam and Eve, Adam had to be built up, his character. There were certain traits and certain parts of him that needed to be built up first. And as well as Eve, when she was taken from his rib, there were certain traits of hers that needed to be built up before they could unite. So I think the next most important thing is building ourselves and preparing to potentially be with someone else and not just focusing on the idea that we need to be with someone, because not everyone is going to get married. And that's the harsh truth about it. Really quickly, another point I also wanted to make is I was speaking to a young guy who got married, and he said to me, well, the reason he got married is because he traveled to about 73 or 74.
Now, you can hear me? All right, great. I was in very interesting conversation. I just find there's a lot of projection going on. I hear a lot of things about selfish and maybe jealous about her. That's not what the scenario said. The scenario was clear, all right? And I'll just say it straight, they should break up. I don't see any reason why we should be forcing. The people 21 years old, we say, you know what 21 years old is? You ever know what your future is going to be like? What your employment prospects will be? You don't even have a career path as yet. Why are we forcing two children to stay in a relationship? The girl want to move, let her move. And there's some things that don't sit right with me. She made an impetuous decision to go and apply for a scholarship. She just said, hey, let me do something. Boom, do it. Now the problem comes. You go and tell him. And he didn't just say something right away. He thought about it for weeks. He weighed the pros and cons. He made a rational decision. He said, you know what? Just go. It go make sense. There's nothing selfish about that. We can force our own paradigms on the situation. It says he wanted her to thrive. She's the one who wants to go. And being 21, I'll advise all young people, don't get married at 21. Think about your career, think about how you want things to work out, and then you make a decision around 25 or so when you had enough experience as an adult. 21, you're still a baby. Yes. Let's be real. Stop forcing children to stay together kilometers away, miles away, countries away. That girl going to be there for other doctors. That man will be there seeing other women around him, and you want him to force a relationship. When that girl come back to be a totally different person, he'll be a totally different man. Why are we encouraging that? That's not good advice for any young person. And that's my take.
Okay, thank you for that. Before Trevon takes the other hand, I just want to reiterate the purpose of what we were doing, what the topic and the whole program is that the panelists had to look at from male perspective and from women's perspective. The views does not necessarily relate to the panelists' individual opinions of it, but we want to be able to get a very good cross-section of thinking as to how men at that age, how women at that age interact with certain situations. And as we know, this is a very, very common situation that we can all relate to, but for us to be able to come together and see how our persons interpreting this. All right?
Yeah. Good evening, Trevon. Good evening, everyone. Basically, I'll speak from a man's point of view.
Right.
To me, it can be that after he gave it his true thoughts, asking her to just break it off, most likely he might have come to the conclusion that maybe she wanted to be away from him so that she can have more time to really evaluate that relationship and whether they truly will be an item. And what's the best way for her to do that than to be away from him? And he being away from her, time usually tests certain key things to see whether it's really can stand the test of time. So to me, I see it a good thing. Possibly that he's telling her, okay, well, let's just leave that alone. Allow her to free herself. She can have more time to think about her own education and she can avail herself. Chances are, if he himself doesn't catch another fish, that when she returns, that the two of them can kind of spark a fire again. Who knows? But that's just my own view as a man.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And that's what we want to get, the male perspective, the women perspective. Thank you for that.
Okay, hi, happy Sabbath again. Thank you, Olympia and the panelists, for such a wonderful program. And I think the speaker before just said it, it's perspective. So coming from a female perspective, which would be what I'm seeing here, is I'm seeing two things. Are they Christians?
They are SDA Christians.
They are SDA Christians. So
And I think so many of us, or so many persons, I wasn't a thing of that, but so many people have had to go to school and had that same experience and came back and married the same person that they left behind. Or maybe they both moved on in life. So my thing is, I'm seeing it in two ways. Where is all the faith and the trust that we are putting in a relationship? Because 5 years, you must have put in faith and trust. Am I only trusting you when I'm in control of you being around me? Or can I trust you when you're not around me? Is that love? I heard somebody said he really loved her. Is that really love? Or is that controlling? Right? Because at that age, two things have happened there. They have developed a bond with each other because they started at the age of 16. And now they're 21. They're young adults. They're 21. And he knew that she had applied for the scholarship. She gave him time to think about it. But he's going to come back and say, well, let's end it. Right? I see selfishness in that playing out there. I see control. Maybe if he says that she will decide to give up the scholarship and stay with him because she loves him, or she's in lust with him, because at that age, I don't even see. I know they have a bond together for sure, but I don't know if love is playing a factor here. So I hear many persons saying it that she should go to school. I too support that she should go to school. There's an old saying, if you love it, let it go. And if it's yours, it will come back to you. I think too many times it has happened where, and I'm not trying to pick on men, but too many times I've heard men say, if you leave, if you go to school, I'm ending the relationship. And it's putting extra pressure on that lady who now has to go to school to think about her studies and to have to think about in the middle of a breakup or so much conflict in the relationship that she's trying to nurture to keep together. Why don't we just work together? Because when she comes back, she's yours. And Ryan said it. Not every academical graduate person marries another graduate. You understand? And I think sometimes we need to, and that's my perspective as a female, that I would assure him that I'm going to school too, and I'll be back. We will talk. We will communicate. And maybe I will be home on vacation, not every vacation, because Taiwan to St. Lucia is a few $1,000s, right? Maybe you could even come and explore and see Taiwan for yourself too one time. So this would be my first thing. Even as a female, and I would like to believe that men can think like that, so broad-minded too. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Perceptions, perspectives, male and female. Are we learning from this discussion? Okay, I'm not getting, we could go through Joycelyn. I saw Joycelyn. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Good night, Saba. I just wanted to ask, what if she decides that one day she does not go to Taiwan per se, and by the next year the relationship does not work out? There'll be a whole bunch of guilt on both parties. Or like somebody said earlier, what if he decides to follow the young lady to school? But then what if he decides in the long run that is not for him? He regrets coming along. There are so many views to look at, like who will be happy. But what if the roles change and it is his decision to go to school? Will she follow him as well? So like it kind of have questions in there, like what exactly would happen if the roles were changed?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Good night. All right. Good night, everyone. Can you guys hear me clearly? All right. Happy Sabbath, everyone. I'll try to be as quick as I can. Basically, from my point of view, is that there are just so many variables in this scenario, and also in real life. There's so many what ifs. Like what if he wanted to pursue his education, or what if this and that. What ifs? There's so many what ifs. And it's just that the fact of the matter is that she got a scholarship. She's finally she has the opportunity to pursue her goals. And the other fact is that he doesn't want the long distance. That's the other fact that's in there. And what we just have to assess is obviously the solution to it. But as I said, there's still other variables. But I just think personally that the fact of the matter is that she's going to Taiwan. He's in St. Lucia. That says a lot about like why he doesn't want to have a long distance relationship. Mainly because number one, I was even saying that there's a time zone difference. He could be up. He just wakes up and like she's probably like right now studying. She's studying hard for a test. She's a med student, right? A med student. She's probably studying, trying to actually get somewhere. And communication could also be a big factor in him not wanting to pursue that. Another thing could even also be trust. As I said, it's if there is trust. Probably as at that young age, he probably thinks, oh, what if she does this or what if she does that? It's just, as I said, there are many variables, so many what ifs to it. So that's probably why he just doesn't want to have it all, or even try maybe. But at the same time, it's up to the person. It's up to whoever is in that relationship to decide if they want to work it out or if they want to like take a break and come back to it. And yeah, it's all up to the person. But as I said, there's just so many variables in that scenario that, if we had to sit down there and try to analyze and discuss what exactly we should do or what they should do, we'll be here for hours or even days just trying to come up with solutions for that. So yeah, that's my point.
Hi, good evening. Okay, so thank you for allowing me to speak. Looking at the situation here, I think we're digging very deeply into it. These two people, they're a young couple. They've been together for 5 years. The scenario says that 2 years after that, they started having serious conversations about their future, one of which involved marriage. Somehow we just zeroed in on the marriage and we forgot that there were other conversations, even if it does not say what these were. Apparently, one of the conversations was her interest in pursuing her dream of furthering her education and becoming a doctor. If there was this conversation, he knows it is an investment that requires a long-term plan. She did not have opportunity before. It meant if opportunity came before, she would have taken it. And opportunity came now. So she's considering taking it. So from looking at the scenario, just at the basis of what it says, these are things that to a certain extent they were aware of, but maybe didn't realize that they didn't plan for if it actually happened. And that is where part of the problem came. The other thing is women, usually when you see they think of something, they have a dream, they pursue it, they go after it. And depending on, as somebody said, what the priority is for them, they will pursue that. And she has said to him they can do it. She thinks they can thrive. They know each other, and she's trusting that he will support her through that dream. But if we consider that the men are saying that they're thinking of logical responses to the reality of what is happening now, 1 + 1 = 2. If she leaves now, she's left him. If he's there alone, they're not going to be able to maintain the connection and intimacy that he believes they need to be nurturing. And as a result of that, if he loves her, he has to let her go and do the best that she can, which is why he says, you know what, let's call it a day. It does not mean that he's running off to go and look for anybody else. It does not mean that he necessarily expects her to go and look for anybody else. But a man who is, the 2 weeks was for him to sit, process that in his head, determine what he could sustain over the time, and come back and give her the most honest decision of her life, of his life. If she takes his decision and she goes with it and she's successful and she comes back to him and he's available, he will respect her. They will respect each other for it. But if she stays and she does not go because she felt he was preventing her, they will get married. She will end up resenting him because her dream is a desire that has a deadline. And as you see your deadline approaching, you get more anxious, and it is going to cause even further, for them. So I'm thinking along those lines, when it comes to women, you have a dream, you set your path. Even if you have children, you go back to that path. If you get married, you go back to that path. They're not married yet. And he is thinking, you know what? This is what might be the best for us and for her, because he loves her. He does not want her in a position where she will end up resenting him. And he knows her. She loves him. He told her that, and he knows she's going, but she will not leave him. Okay, and I think we need to just take that and hope for the best. Outside of that, I don't want to say more, but usually we zero in on marriage because we're trying to avoid other things. But we really needed to see that there were other conversations had. One involved marriage, and they need to take all of those into consideration and make plans. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Trevon, before we take the other person, it's now 5 to 9. And so we're going to have 5 more minutes, and then we could wrap up. Unfortunately, we won't be able to take everybody. How do we move forward, Trevon? How much time do we give? Because I understood there's a long queue. Okay. All right.
2 minutes each.
Panelists, there was a motion for 15 minutes. Are you on board with 15 minutes?
Yeah, I'm fine with the 15
minutes. I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'm not.
That's fine.
All right. Okay, Trevon.
Okay, I was just. I was just saying, I just want to bring a different twist here.
I think I know what Media wanted to say. The twist is, I think somebody mentioned it, that what if it was the reverse? What if the guy got the scholarship? Would we still be having the same conversation? I think Sergio alluded to that in the chat, Sergio Max. And I thought about the same thing. What if the guy got the scholarship? Would we be still having the same conversation?
Hi, good night. I agree with Joyce's point, but I want to add something to that, because Jerry went and he thought about what was going on with with the scholarship, and he came back and he told her that he doesn't believe that long distance relationship or that it would work. He never said that we should end. So that's something that now we're going to talk about. So either we decide maybe, okay, that scholarship too far, or we move in, because 5 years with somebody is a lot of time. Mm-hmm. No matter if you're young or not, especially if they have been having some serious conversation, especially about marriage and other subjects like Jeff said. So I don't think that for the scenario to end there, because there he didn't say, okay, we finish with that. No, he said that he doesn't believe in long distance relationship. So yeah, that's my point for that, because I know a lot of people that go through with they got scholarship and then had to change their mind because of the distance, and then they got closer and they were able to move together and go to school, whoever going to school, the other one working and helping each other out. So I think we should not stick on the negative part of it and trying to say the man bad or the woman bad. That are not helping nobody. Thank you.
Yes, good night and happy Sabbath, everybody. Like Sister Joycelyn's point, and I want to kind of ride on it for a short while. From a man's perspective, one of the key things, 5 years being together, and in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm with someone for 5 years, I'm thinking what sort of deposits I made in that relationship, and what is that? I mean, in 5 years, that person, if you committed to that person to the point where you're in a courting relationship based on the scenario, in my mind, I'm thinking those people should have, you know, a tight bond, for lack of a better word. Now, of course, Jerry made his decision based on his assessment of the situation. Of course, he would have seen things from a specific angle. And we highlighted one of the things as, you know, he would not be able to stand a long distance relationship. As a guide on the flip side, and you know, that's why I don't believe this scenario is one answer, right? I agree with a lot of the points that have been made, but I do see light as well based on the headspace, the level of maturity of those two individuals. Yes, they're 21 and they may be young. But, you know, there are situations where people are mature enough. And based on the scenario, they seem to be two very mature people based on the level of conversation that they had, so on and so forth. But to make my point short, to accommodate others, I think Jerry or a guy would actually accept his girlfriend or, you know, his partner leaving to go overseas, and, you know, taking into considerations variables like Amani said, there are so many variables. Would we be able to see each other during that time, in terms of, would I be able to travel to Taiwan? Would she be able to travel back to St. Lucia, given that's, you know, the country that they're from? How much, I mean, there's social media. How can I handle, you know, the intimacy over, when I say intimacy, spending time together over social media, WhatsApp, you know, there's video calls. There are a lot of things that can actually help a relationship remain strong, even with the distance. So I actually see it's possible to work on both ends. And I really do think that it's a matter of, you know, the two individuals involved. In this specific case, it could have very well been the right decision for them to split up based on how Jerry felt about it. But I mean, in reality, it really could work both ways. And I think Rena was really going for that idea, as, you know, it doesn't really need to break up. It's not an absolute. And I would agree with that. It's not an absolute. However, it may just be necessary based on the space that the two individuals are in. So that's not the point I just wanted to stick in.
Okay.
It's okay. Ryan kind of mentioned me. That's fine, thanks.
I'm going to jump on what Jesse said as well. It could work both ways. We don't know. Life happens. Disaster, a crisis happens. Things happen. We don't know what the future holds. But having a plan is important. And that's what I'm seeing from the whole scenario, is really having a plan, having the opportunity to have analytical skills come into play, problem solving skills come into play. That can be an opportunity to mature, even handling that situation. That will probably give them an opportunity to see different perspectives, even though they have never experienced it. It's an opportunity. I'm seeing this whole scenario as an opportunity to grow. Other skills can come into play. For example, like I said, analytical skills, problem solving skills, conflict resolution, all these things come into play, but they might not label it as that, but it gives an opportunity to do that. The other thing I wanted to point out was not only having a plan, but to keep in mind they're Seventh-day Adventists and there is a guideline with their faith and who is involved, and just so many things come into play. So we need to take into consideration of just the wholesome aspect of how to handle that situation. So it gives them an opportunity to make proper decisions, whether it's to let's take a break or let's really think about it or just set a plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Trevon. So here you have it, guys. Perceptions, understanding how the opposite sex thinks. So as we wrap it up, one of the things in terms that came up in our discussion is not the purpose of this discussion and this program is for us to be able to receive how male think about a situation and how women think of a situation. We heard from the man's perspective that men need that level of validation and that level of security from women in order to be able to feel safe. That came up through one of the panelists. We also saw that with men making a decision, time is also a factor. That men need time to be able to make an honest decision. We recognize that women are on the spur of the moment, guided by emotions, while men are more logical. We saw women having to be able to respect the honesty of a man, because women ask men to be honest, but sometimes don't always know how to deal with the honesty. We saw that coming up. We saw more so that we need to be able to present our plans to God. Present our plans to God. If this is your will, what is it that you want for me? What else did we see? We saw that women have ambitions, not that men don't have, but women have ambitions and that they don't want to be held back. All right. So the emphasis of this program, again, is not necessarily to come up with solutions. It's not necessarily to come up with answers, but to give you a broad perspective of how men think, how women think, so that we could, one, accept the differences, reduce the minor conflict that arise in our relationship, so that we would be able to represent Christ in the relationship that we have with each other by understanding our uniqueness as male and as female. All right. So as we move forward, as I said to you, this is a monthly program. And if you are interested in being a participant as a panelist, you could send your request to perceptionsofmenandwomen@gmail.com. perceptionsofmenandwomen@gmail.com. Trevon, you could put this up for us. And as we move forward, at that email address, I also want you to send in scenarios. And, we chat with our friends, we have these experiences, And we want to be able to bring it together. Today we had 100 persons, 100 minds coming together to look at what is real. We also are leaving with some suggestions for young people who may be involved in this situation, in decisions that seems to be very important in our lives. Bring in family support. Bring in persons you know who have your best interest at heart. Have persons who can pray with you, who can pray for you to guide your decision. Don't just make decisions impulsively. We are living with that. We are living with consulting God first. My perspective on this is that the male doesn't really want her to go. The male is afraid that all what he has invested in would just go up into shambles. They want to be together, but of course, fears of life that we all experience come into play. But with love and trust, we have God in our midst. With love and trust, there could be negotiations as to, okay, let's see how this thing works. We will call, we will visit. Let's have further discussion as to how we can go around to secure what we have built on for such a long time. And if the foundation was one that was solid, then time will be able to prove how solid that foundation is. So that is my perspective. Again, there is no right or wrong in life's challenges other than taking God in your decision and having others guide you. So here I leave you with our program tonight. I want to thank you so much for your participation. We did not expect to be live streaming on YouTube. I'm hoping and praying that the purpose of this program this evening was met in beginning to have us appreciate the differences in how we see information and how we see life's experiences. So with that, Travon, can you pray for us, please? So audience, please tune in for next month and send in your scenarios. Have a good night.